What's up? What's up? What's up? This is your girl Yuta K Best, and you are watching and or listening to Hella Random Radio, where positive energy lives. My guest today is the beautiful Natasha Barshalom. She is the founder of Cosm Triggered Futures, Winning Wednesdays, and so many other beautiful and wonderful community offerings. How are you doing, Natasha?
I am doing great, amazing, honored to be here. I was so excited when you invited me to this live. I'm like, really? Me?
I
Colorado
mean,
is a huge fan of you, girl.
you're funny. Well, I mean, I appreciate that, but I mean, you're doing so much, you know, in many ways of your own free will, and sometimes on your own dollar, to
Most
help
of the
people.
time.
Like, how is that not worthy of recognition? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
Okay, so yeah, what I was saying is that I mean, you're doing so much wonderful things in the community just because you want to. Like, I know you have a nonprofit now, but how long have you been doing Winning Wednesdays?
Winning Wednesday has been a 2-year project. I've been active in the community doing similar events since 2018. Really, when I acknowledged how saturated I was with trauma and pain. That's
Mm,
what pulled me to the streets again.
deep, so it sounds like what you're saying is that you were in so much pain yourself that you decided to help others, which I have heard, people say is one of the best things. And if I'm not working a lot and and I'm feeling really heavy, then I will like reach out to people or jump on the socials and say, I'm going to do donation based or free readings or whatever. So I get it, you know, but what you've been doing is just really amazing, Winning Wednesdays in and of itself, and in my opinion, yes, there are people who are famous or whatever, or who have a big name that can draw a lot of attention, you know, and I guess there are people with really interesting stories, that you might want to have on. But really, in my opinion, the most important people to have on are the people who have the heart to help, you
It
know.
came from
So,
a lot of pain. I'm a Disney fan, and one of my favorite is Bambi. And I was raised in a household of love. My mom and dad spent 42 years together. And it was definitely felt growing up the power behind love. And uh, in 2018, when I experienced kind of my mental breakdown, my breaking point, um, I ended up in the hands of Western medicine. And that was a nightmare. I've never felt rage the way I did in 2018 when I acknowledged that I was hurting. I was in a 14-year relationship with someone that committed suicide in 2018. His suicide was dedicated to me. I wasn't allowed at the funeral. I wasn't accepted by 14-year friends any longer. Um, so I fell into a very dark place, and I thought I was doing the right thing by reaching out and seeking help. And that cost me 8 months of my freedom. I was in a mental hospital, and like I said, I haven't felt anger like that ever in my life. I'm normally like happy or sad. I don't really get mad. But I felt judged. I felt like their solutions were not solutions. I got these labels: severe depression and PTSD or CPTD or whatever these things are called. And with the most respect. I don't really believe in a lot of these mental illnesses. In my opinion, it's just a trauma overload. And we as Americans aren't really taught how to cope with trauma in a healthy way.
Right.
Um, but I refused their help. Their help was a lot of numbing medication. Um, and right around the time of getting out of the mental hospital, I was working as an energy broker, selling electricity to deregulated states, and then got into solar. And the company knew what I was going through. I was one of their top reps. And my boss called me into the office and was like, we think an environmental change could help you. Like, would you be interested in running our call center in Colombia? And I ended up moving and spent 11 months in Medellin, Colombia. And while I was in Colombia, I got really close with some people that were natives. And I ended up moving out of a high rise and moved in with a Colombian family that lived in a not so good neighborhood. But that's really where my healing journey started. Long story short, I built a friendship with one of the neighbors of the family I lived with. I was invited to a healing ceremony. And when I got there, I found out that I was doing ayahuasca. I have never heard of ayahuasca. I have only dreamt about it. Um, and ever since ayahuasca, it's like a new version of myself was born. Like when I got back to the States, I could feel the difference within myself. I like to I think I experienced death and like came back. I'm not quite sure, but I've been a completely different person and more authentic to myself since coming back from Colombia.
Word, word. So I want to shout out Mihar, Araquez, and Austin Moose in the chat. Thank y'all so much for taking some time on this Saturday to vibe with us. Wow.
Yeah,
So,
I know, right? Sorry.
no, it's all good. So, you in 2018, your partner committed suicide. You tried to get help and you were hospitalized against your will for
Well,
8
not
months.
against my will. I was in a dark place in the sense of days in bed, not being able to stop crying, constantly triggered. Phil died in Colorado. It hit the news. He was, ejected out of the window. I was in an area where we had a lot of memories and just I could not control like my thoughts at all. Like I just was in this very dark place. Like I said, we spent 14 years together and we separated for the first time in 14 years. And within 28 days of our separation, he committed suicide and said, a life without me is not worth living. It happened on our 2-year anniversary of me finding out I couldn't have children after 7 pregnancies with him with no kids. We definitely fell in love through our trauma. He was born addicted to crack from Watts, California. Dad was a shot caller of the PJs. He was just very broken down, where I had a completely different upbringing. I had a mom and dad that were high school sweethearts. I didn't experience drug abuse in the home, violence, uh, any really toxicity besides just very, very emotional mom and dad. So sometimes growing up, it was a little heavy. My dad was from the hood and joined the Marines. My mom is from like money. So there was a little bit of like uncomfortableness growing up just because my parents were from 2 very different worlds. But growing up and seeing that and realizing that, that's like what I gravitated towards. Like I gravitate toward, like when I went into high school, I was hanging around a lot of like people from the streets, people of poverty. But I felt that connection. And my dad, I look identical to my dad. I'm my parents' firstborn, and I was a daddy's girl 100%. But yeah, I forgot the question. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It is all good. I was just trying to reiterate and get a timeline and an understanding of what brought you from going through this traumatic experience to, starting to do things like winning Wednesdays. But I'm going to back up a little bit. So the real question, and I probably didn't even get it out, is did you do ayahuasca after you came out of the mental hospital?
I did. And after Phil died, yes.
Okay. And you said that you had an experience that it almost felt like you were dying, but you were a changed person, so what year was that?
That
That you
was, so Phil died in 2018. I got out of the mental hospital. That was like end of 2019.
that you did ayahuasca.
Yeah. Yes.
And you said that you were experiencing a lot of anger. So I know that you reached out intentionally to the mental hospital, but how did it end up becoming an 8-month stint?
Because I was combative and I did not accept their help. Like I was not going along with what they wanted me to do, but I have never felt clarity and the presence of God like I did in that situation. It was like a surrendering moment. It was already too late. I had already answered those questions. Are you suicidal? Like when you answer certain questions truthfully, because that's the only way to get to the root of the problem is to answer these questions truthfully.
Right.
I did not realize what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I wear wigs. I was immediately like, once I answered these questions, I was told to strip my wig and give my phone away and change my clothes. And then I spent 3 days in the hospital being evaluated. They saw how, when you're asking me all these questions focused around trauma, I'm going to express emotion. So yes, like I was hysterical a lot and crying. And then it went from just being in the emergency room. I went to the emergency room first and foremost. I don't recommend that. But I didn't know what to do. And when you have family and friends and you're reaching out wanting to vent for the fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, and they're like, girl, like I'm working, I can't, like, I know it's hard, but you got to get through this. I didn't want to bombard the people I love and push them away or feel offended by them, because sometimes I would get upset. Like, I am suicidal. Like, do you hear the words coming out of my mouth? How are you rushing me off the phone? So I went to the doctor. I didn't know what to do. I would never commit suicide, but I have to be honest with myself. Yes, that's all I think about. I pray to God. I've never prayed prior to this situation. I grew up knowing God, but I wasn't much of a prayer. And I would ask God to take me. Like, this is not living. I don't want to be here anymore. Please take me. So when I was coming back to the United States, so I spent 2 months after ayahuasca. I spent 2 more months in Colombia prior to coming back to the States. And I kid you not, like, I went from crying every day to constantly talking about my trauma to just being full of like life. It was I just felt very refreshed and I wasn't hurting. I didn't feel weighed down anymore. And then when I got back to the States, that all changed again. It was like immediately I was in a dark place. And that's where Triggered Futures was born, the vision of Triggered Futures, because I realized that we as humans are triggered through our senses. We smell something, it brings back a memory. We see something, it brings back a memory. We feel something, it brings back a memory. So I was now in an environment that I had memories attached to, where Colombia, I did not. I didn't know, I don't even speak Spanish. So everything was brand new. And really all I had to go off of out there is energy. Like I had I had the best communication with the family I lived with, and we don't even speak the same language, but they felt my love, I felt their love. So when I came back, I made a commitment, no more TV. It's time to unprogram. It's time to undomesticate. I learned a lot from the shaman. It was like a full, beautiful, like 3-day ceremony doing the ayahuasca. I took a lot of notes, and I just started journaling and getting more involved and getting to know myself and like unraveling. And then I realized that that happiness that I felt in Colombia, I didn't have to pick up and go back to Colombia. I just had to take away what I appreciated from that environment that gave me peace and curate that here in the States.
I hear that. I hear that. Okay, so now I'm just trying to make sure that we have like a timeline, and so your family, your friends, whatever, they were basically overwhelmed. And so you went to the emergency room. They asked you some questions, which ended with you being committed for 8 months. Like, and what did you have to do to get out of there?
Kind of agree and accept their medication.
So you just had to stop being combative, quote
Yeah.
unquote. And then how long after you got out did you go to Colombia?
It was not even like a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And it
So
was
spirit guided you.
And the company
That's
I was working
amazing.
for before this company was trying to get me to go to Colombia, but to Barranquilla, not Medellin. So it was definitely like I started receiving so much clarity. Like, I'm like, this is not a coincidence. Like, I'm supposed to be here. Like I said, I dreamt about ayahuasca, not knowing what ayahuasca was. But when I got to the ceremony, I'm like, I'm having deja vu. Like,
Mm,
I've experienced this before. And the day I left the like Amazon area where the ayahuasca was being where the ceremony took place, I found moldavite on the way out. Again, did not know what moldavite was. And moldavite is like from the other side of the world. Like the fact that moldavite was even in Colombia is rare. Like you don't find crystals and sage. Like sage is one of the expensive things to buy in Colombia. It's not common. Um, and then that's really what just I decided to move back to Colorado. I won't give too much because I'm sure you're like coming up with questions, but yeah, it's been a life-changing situation since all of this. But really, I feel it's not ayahuasca that did it for me. It was my moment of surrendering and being more intentional with prayer and understanding that what we ask for, we do receive. So pay attention to what you're asking for.
well, right. I mean, I guess I could be, it might be a semantic argument, but, and just for folks who are out there listening to this, know that because Natasha is going through some things, I decided to open her Akashic Records before we started this. So we are likely, it's possible that we will be more emotional than might make sense. And I'm getting very emotional when you started talking about the moldavite. Like moldavite is one of the most expensive, stones or
It's
whatever you could
powerful
get
too. When I
because
put
it
it
is so rare.
Yeah. When I found it, I had made it into a necklace because it was like a little stone, like this big. And I made it into a necklace and I put it on and it made me sick. It was so powerful.
Wow.
Like within
Yeah.
20 minutes, my body felt warm. I felt nauseous. And that's when I started educating myself on crystals. I had never been to like into crystals or anything like that until then.
That's what I was going to ask, if you knew what it was when you first picked it up. Like what called you to it?
Just I'm a Gemini and my birthstone is emerald and it looked like an emerald on the floor. It was like this green, pretty glass. It looked like green glass. And I
Wow.
picked it up and Yeah, I looked at it. I described what it looked like in Google, and then I found out that it was Moldavite, and it's like from the Czech Republic and like a meteor. And I'm like, how is this all the way in Colombia? But from what I read, it's like represents transformation. And I was definitely transforming.
Right. I mean, in my opinion, the only way, I mean, it's so rare. The only way for you to have happened upon that is because spirit was gifting that to you
Yeah.
to help you to help you heal and to help you understand that you're on the right path. Awesome. So excellent. You know, I totally understand. And so between your willingness to surrender and ayahuasca and journaling and all the different things that you did, you became a different person. You became a more, I would imagine, whole and healthy version of yourself while you were in Colombia. Then you came back to the United States and some of your triggers started to come back. And is there any particular incident that compelled you to want to start COSM, or how did that, you said that it was born, like I understand like your inspiration to
Yeah.
create it
So
was born.
again, coming back to the States, feeling triggered, having the same friends and family that are still not really overwhelmed by me, but just distracted by their roles in life. They don't like, most of us don't exude too much time in things that aren't benefiting us in some type of way. Like that we just don't. Um, and I don't agree with that concept. Like I don't, but especially when I'm in the understanding that it's time for me to heal and it's time for me to show love to myself, which is why I even walked away from a 14-year relationship. I love
Mhm.
Phil to the moon and back. I still love him. He loved me, but that was the problem. We spent 14 years making a point to showcase that we loved each other, and there was no self-love going on. So I started consuming myself with the self-love concept, and healers and holistic practices and self-love at the same time became like trending online. And a lot of the people that I was gravitating towards that were expressing how to build self-love and how to heal, I didn't agree with it. Like I was drawn to them, but I was drawn to them and had small takeaways, but I was still firm in my understanding. And self-love is the ability to love others. Like there's not 5 million boundaries put into place and cut everyone out of your life. And as soon as you do me wrong, I got to cut you. Like that's just so opposite of the truth. Um, so in me realizing that my friends and family were the same, and I needed to focus on me, I'm like, okay, so 2 months after ayahuasca in Colombia, I didn't have to focus on my breathing. I didn't have to meditate. I didn't have to journal to feel God's peace, to feel inner peace. I still did it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm having an anxiety attack. I have to do this. And then I started analyzing that, like, okay, well, was I able to do that? It's not that I was dealing with strangers in Colombia, but in a sense, they were strangers. So I'm like, how can I get more involved with people I don't emotionally know and that I can see myself in? And then the houseless come into play. Why do I see myself in the houseless? Well, I give them props because I feel further along in the healing process than a lot of us because they're at least acknowledging that they need help and they've
Yeah.
gotten rid of pride and they have no problem being judged to ask for help because they know that it's detrimental to them living on earth another day. And they're okay with the judgment and what comes with that because they're firm in what they're trying to do for themselves. And I just saw so much beauty in that. And so I would go and put myself in environments, volunteer, like sign up to volunteer, just walk over to Colfax. I'm now living back in Colorado, mind you, when I come back from the States. And yeah, I would be walking past me and Phil's favorite taco shop. I would notice my energy shift. And then instead of letting that weigh me down, I would see a houseless individual at the bus stop and I would go sit down and start talking. And before you know it, I'm able to release. I'm getting empathy. I'm getting comfort because they have nothing else going on. They're also in the same point of surrendering, so they can relate. And it's just medicine. Like, I started connect. I honestly, when I'm waking up looking forward to something to do on my weekend or what's enjoyable for me, I want to go kick it with the houseless
Mm.
because I feel centered with myself and I feel like I'm around people that align with me more than these people walking around faking it till they make it, like their life is great and they're struggling.
I hear that. I hear that. And it's, that when you talked about starting to feel your energy shift in a negative way and deciding to go, talk to someone who is also hurting, or I felt that, like I really literally felt that, and that is absolutely beautiful. So when was the first Winning Wednesday? And tell us what Winning Wednesday is.
Yes. So COSM, I love that everyone calls it COSM, but it's not. It's actually KOSM. But my
Okay.
healers and holistic practitioners in Colorado, COSM means something for you guys. So I think that's why. That's why. So we could call it that, but it's an acronym for knowledge of successful mindsets. So through my healing journey, I have a background when it comes to 9 to 5 job type of work. I'm a sales rep. I've been in sales my whole life and I'm great at it. I'm always the top rep. That's what got me to Columbia. And growing up in a household where mom is born into money and dad is from the streets, and I could see the difference in who they are and how they show themselves and whether or not their heart is open, or I just wanted to be more like my dad, which created like self-sabotaging subconscious beliefs that success was not going to be in my life. Like I didn't want to be rich because I don't like people that are successful. But I learned that success is a mindset and I don't have to carry myself a certain way or look a certain way or talk a certain way to be successful. Success means to gain something you are aiming for. And as long as you stay centered with yourself and you remind yourself what you're aiming for and you're intentional, then you are successful as long as you're achieving your goals, your personal goals. So I just wanted to embody that. Everything that I do in the community, not trying to say this in a bad way, but it was really about me. It wasn't about trying to help other people. I feel horrible because everyone's like, oh my God, you're so great. You help so many people. I'm like, that's great. But I'm trying to help myself. And it just confirms that that's really what self-love is. Like I'm loving
Mm.
myself and I'm able to make impact. People could feel it. But Winning Wednesday, we call it Winning Wednesday. I like to theme each one of my days because
Okay.
I like intention being involved. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh shit, it's Winning Wednesday, I got to embrace my inner winner. Today I'm a winner. So I'm going to move like a winner. I'm going to pick out clothes that have colors that influence me feeling confident. And I picked Wednesday. The reason why I picked Wednesday is because Wednesday, I just realized like I feel good on Wednesday before naming my day Winning Wednesday. But Wednesday is also the day that City Council in Colorado meets to talk
Oh,
about houselessness and safety. And Winning Wednesday happens right in front of the City Council building intentionally so that we can get their attention. Um, but that's why we do it on 14th and Bannock, right outside the City Council building, so that we could try to get city officials' attention. And I'm so glad that I'm being asked to do podcasts because so many people think that our nonprofit is for the houseless, and it's not. Like my nonprofit is acknowledges mental health, and we're in a fight to end human suffering. The houseless I use to showcase what healing looks like and to
Mm,
allow people to open their hearts and to really start experiencing self-love on a level that's not really trending right now, like being talked about. Um, so at Winning Wednesday, I make a point to market a lot on social media so that we have regular people showing up, people with jobs, people that are not houseless. Um, and then also I invite the houseless, and we really, I look at it as like a family reunion. I hate, it's not
mm,
because we're not here to serve the houseless. We don't have assembly lines. We don't have like a volunteer sign up and put your mask on and your gloves and put your head down and just slop food on for the people and just give them stuff that they don't even want or need. It's more about building relationships and us coming together and like letting our walls down and allowing the public, my friends that don't have time and space for anything besides their own stuff. I want you guys to learn from these people that are judged constantly,
yeah.
because they're they're a lot of people are like, don't help the houseless because they choose to be there. You're absolutely right. A lot of them do choose to be there, and they choose to be there for the same reason that I choose to put myself in their environment all the time, because there is a sense of healing and community like no other. People care about one another. People look out for one another. People listen to what you're saying. It's not so self-absorbed, and it's very beautiful to experience. So I bring them in so that we could learn from them. And we do free haircuts, we do free acupuncture, we do free mini makeovers. We put together a storefront, we do food, we bring out the microphone, we do open mic and music, and we just hang out with each other.
Dope, 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 dope. Awesome. So Mihar is asking, what is your nonprofit? So your nonprofit is KOSM,
Triggered
which means
Futures.
Triggered Futures, which means knowledge of successful mindsets. And you said that you just got your nonprofit designation like 2 months ago. Is that right?
Yeah. And we had
And
no
when was
choice. I didn't want to be a nonprofit, I wanted to
oh,
be a movement. Um, I learned a lot about the United States moving outside of the country, and I did not want to be a part of the problem. And a lot of these nonprofits are getting so much money and they're not helping nobody. And I don't want to be under the thumb of the government and be told how to use this money. And 90% of the money go into paying employees and getting me a building, making it to where the only thing I could do for the people is drop off peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But
mm,
I needed help with funding because I was struggling being successful. So after 2 months of hosting Winning Wednesday, you had asked me, when did it start? It started 2 years ago in March. Winning Wednesday is an event that happens every Wednesday from March to October. Our first Winning Wednesday was held at the Colorado Village Collaborative. They're a tiny house community. And we did the same concept there. Then we would pull up to tents. Then by pulling up to tents, I started getting so many houseless people telling me like they trust me and they want me to be their voice. So I started getting into like city council and town hall meetings. And that's when I learned that Wednesday there was a meeting being held at city council. And that's when we moved to 14th and Bannock. Um, but yeah, I think that answers the question, right?
yes, excellent. So basically, you got your nonprofit 2 months ago because you had to,
We
but
were
you've been
growing. We
doing
started with like 30 people at our events. Our last event, we had 192 people show up.
that is amazing. That is amazing. Mihar says, I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Congrats on your movement. My church here in Wichita went to Denver last summer and helped Movement 5280.
Oh, I'm very, very aware of them. I volunteer with them.
It says, being from Brighton, thanks to everybody helping.
Yay. Thank you for your involvement in the community. You're not even from Colorado and you come to town and start volunteering. That's beautiful.
Well, actually, Mihar is originally from
Oh, okay.
Thornton, but when it started getting really expensive, they moved to Kansas.
Got it. Makes sense.
Um, okay, so you were just doing this out of the kindness of your heart for several years, and then
Again, I was doing this because my focus is me healing, not because I'm trying to be kind. And it's just it was about me, and that's why it was easy for me to keep going. I'm actually now in Las Vegas because I've caused myself to be houseless. Um, I
mm,
my healing, when I surrendered to God in 2018, I promised myself that I would never be distracted again from the truth.
mhm,
And my success story is to feel God's peace at all time. As soon as I feel God's peace slipping away, I need to set new goals. So my goals are not big houses and cars and being, top dog on Instagram. Like, I'm not really worried about what people have to say or think about me. I just need to feel my peace, and my peace is in the streets. My peace is living from my heart space. My peace is being real with myself and acknowledging where I'm at in my healing journey. And I'm just not there yet. And I need to stay in the streets. And if staying in the streets consists of, we live in a world where, again, people don't get involved unless they're getting something from it. So I can't just host an event and have nothing to offer, especially when we've been on the news 5 times. Like, people know about us now. So now people are counting on me to show up. So I kept showing up, and that, taking my rent money. I heard about you through Barb. I was roommates with Barb, and thank God for Barb. She allowed me to stay in her house for 5 months without paying rent. But watching what it was doing to her, you know, getting served eviction notice the last 2 months that I was there, I told her, I love you too much. I can't, even though you're supporting me and you're going through the motions, but I know it's stressing you out to get those notices on the door, and you deserve a roommate that can pay you. And I can't do both. I can't pay $1,200 a month plus, fund feeding 100 people every single week.
man. So who helped you to get the nonprofit, or
city
did
council
you?
city council members.
Oh, excellent,
Mhm.
excellent. So it sounds like you were being forced to either pay rent or continue to feed people, and you chose to continue to feed people.
I chose to continue to feed my heart. Yeah.
But now that you have the nonprofit, are you just waiting for grants, or how do you intend to move forward?
So again, I got help becoming a 501 through city officials that see the work that's being done and are telling me there's no way you can keep putting yourself in this position. We're going to help you. But they helped me get the 501 recognition. And now, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have I did, again, this was not my goal. My goal was not to become a nonprofit. But when you are in the journey of real self-love and really working on yourself and really living with your heart open and letting go of fear, that's where the opportunities are. Success, abundance is guaranteed and promised to all of us. So God's like, okay, this is how you're healing. Opportunities are coming regardless if you're equipped or prepared for it or not. um, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do next. I have no idea. And I don't, it's very, pride comes into play. I don't know how to do what I'm doing and market it to where people don't think that I'm like asking for money. And I don't know. It's just, it's very hard for me to like, I need your guys' help doing this. I rather,
Yeah.
go sell my TV and go without. And
I hear you. And okay, so I understand, why I was compelled to pull this together and how, like you said, things line up. So Austin Luce is in the chat. She is the founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization called Consumption Literacy Project. And she is in the chat saying, I would love to work with you and share anything I know about grants. And she is a really good grant writer. She's been in the nonprofit world for a long time. And
I want to come
awesome.
back home so bad. Being in Vegas is killing me, but I have a mom that makes great money, and she's allowing me to be here rent free. I don't want money to, break up relationships that mean everything to me. So I had to step away from Colorado to be able to get these type of connections so that I can start submitting for grants, because I just, I gotta, I gotta, I gotta get back to it. Gotta get back to it.
Yes, yes, I
We
hear
do have a
that.
grant coming though. And I didn't even apply for this grant. Through just the traction on Instagram, we were elected without me realizing. We were nominated for another nonprofit that does a grant the last quarter of the year. They give money to another nonprofit, and we were nominated 712 times, which is like mind blowing to me. I don't know how we did that, but on November 3rd, I got a call from this lady that was just so full of joy. Hello, is Natasha available? And she's like, we just wanted to let you know that you won our fourth quarter grant, and we got a couple $1,000s coming to you. And I'm like, oh my God. But I'm nervous. She actually called me yesterday and said, okay, make sure you're available on Monday. I'm going to call you. We're going to get all the paperwork submitted. But all I have is the 501, like
Yes.
recognition, the number. I still haven't, like, I just learned the other day on a call, like I got to get my DUNS. I got to get a toll-free number. I still got to open a business account. So I'm praying if you guys could just send good vibes that there's not going to be any like loopholes, because I don't have all this stuff taken care of. I'm hoping that I could still receive the grant. Because there's a lot of work to be done on my end. I just don't know where to start because I don't know what I'm doing. But we got that figured out today. So
Yes, yes. Austin is in the chat saying that she can help with that too. I
okay.
am really about to start
Yay.
crying now. Oh my God. Thank you, Austin.
I
Thank you,
know. I got too
Natasha.
much eyeliner on. And you seen my cry face. Don't do that to me, you guys. Please.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been amazing and a completely unexpected conversation. I did not, I do these. I see maybe someone make a post or I don't know, but
We
I'm
don't
not,
know. And
there is no
Instagram will
method to
only
my
show
madness.
so much.
Yeah, I mean, I just know that there's no real method to my madness except that when I see a post or I think of a name, I reach out. And I never know what's going to come. I try to be prepared with questions just in case we don't really have anything to talk about. But I just let it flow, and my heart is just like overflowing. That you needed support, and perhaps this show helped you to find some of that support. You
Thank you.
know, so oh my gosh, no, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for continuing to follow your heart, even when it doesn't make intellectual sense,
Yeah.
because I think that is what this time is about. I think humanity is evolving. And I think we're having to go through this really difficult process of figuring out how to follow our heart, even when our mind says that's dumb.
Yeah. That makes
you
no
know,
sense, girl.
right.
Can I
Okay.
ask you a question? I don't know how many more questions you have, but before the live ends, you will like kind of tell me about whatever you open before the live, right?
Yes, and before we get to that, Mihar is asking for your IG information. So
Yes. So
I'm gonna put that in the chat for you. What is it?
it's Natasha. That's Natasha underscore triggered futures.
And actually, I think I'm gonna make it a link so they should be able to just oops, dang, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. So Instagram.com/Natasha underscore triggered futures. Awesome. And yes, you can. I definitely, these are conversations and not interviews. At least that's what I'd like to think. So yeah, it is definitely a two-way conversation. And so, because I know that Natasha has been going through a lot, I asked my spirit guides before we started if I should open her Akashic records. And they said yes. And so I asked you, and I'm kind of bugging out that you didn't already know what it was, that you're so
I
trusting
don't even know what that means.
that you would just let somebody do something like that without even knowing what it is. But the Akashic records are kind of described as the Google of consciousness, and so when I open your Akashic records, I am clairsentient, which means I feel things. Everybody has some sort of a clair. There's claircognizant, which means you just happen to know things and you don't know why you know them. There's clairaudience, which means you might sometimes hear voices that you can't explain. There's clairsentience, which means that you feel things. And there's more, but I'm not going to keep going. But and I have all of that sometimes, and especially the claircognizant. But because I'm so intellectual, I often have a hard time believing the claircognizance. But the feelings, I'm solid with, and
Yeah.
so the reason that I asked to open your Akashic records is because it helps me to feel what you're feeling, and often it helps me to feel what you're not comfortable feeling. Like I
Right.
know for a fact there were a couple of things that you said that really, were kind of breaking your heart open, and so I opened that so that the reason why I asked is so that I could get information from your spirits if they felt like there was anything I needed to know, but more importantly, so that I could feel what you were feeling so I didn't go too far, with the questions that I'm asking and things of that nature. So basically, opening the Akashic records
It was a
just
form of
made me
respect.
closer to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So wow, what an amazing, completely unexpected outcome to a show. So I'm going to thank you again for following your heart and being so trusting. Again, anyone who's listening, please follow Instagram.com, Natasha underscore triggered futures. From the kindness of her heart, she started feeding, clothing, giving haircuts, acupuncture, all of these different services to the unhoused.
What I needed
And
when I was healing, when I was feeling broken down, that's really, I'm like, I don't want your tranquilizer to go to sleep. I don't want, to take a pill that's going to make me feel absolutely nothing, feeling like you said, you have a connection. Where like feeling is something that we need to appreciate, whether it's good or bad. It's our like alarm system. If we didn't feel anything, that would be a really pointless life. So I just was not willing to take that. And I just want to continue to create a safe space for myself and keep that centered, like me being able to be centered enough to feel God's presence and feel the guidance. Cause I too have intuition, and like I don't know the education and the background of the things that you're mentioning, but I carry them. I just don't know what they are and what to do with it. But the more I heal and the more I work on myself, the more I can tap into that. And it's a beautiful, we're all very, very, very powerful. Like you said, we all carry these gifts. So
Yes, we are all very powerful and we all don't need the same tools. I feel like the openness that you display, just from what I'm hearing in this conversation, is such that you probably don't need all these different tools that I use, and that you can continue to follow your heart. But you're also right that whatever is meant for you to learn, you will learn it in due time. You know, so I want to shout out T Crizzy in the chat. She says, I was here listening and I appreciate these streams so much. She says, blessings to you, Natasha, on your
thank you.
journey. Folks, please follow T Crizzy. Happy belated birthday, T Crizzy. She's one of the few January 1st birthdays that I know.
Hey, turn up. A real
Yes,
turn
yes,
up,
yes.
baby.
Mihar said, I took lots of notes for self-improvement. Thank you very much. Modern medicine of pill taking is not fun for health. And that's true. You know, I feel like in emergency situations, I might, I will go to the emergency room and maybe take some of their pain meds, but not for long. You know,
Yeah.
once I'm out of it, once I'm out of that emergency state, I am looking for all the holistic solutions I can find, you
Yep.
know, because it's not good. Austin says, appreciate you sharing your journey. Beautiful conversation. So yes, thank all of you. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, T. Crizzy, Mihar, Austin, for being here. I didn't even tell her that I was going live today. And so to me, it's just all proof
Divine alignment.
that it's divine alignment. You have
Yeah.
proof, you have help for your nonprofit in a random and unexpected way. Keep following your heart. One thing that I'm compelled to say in these 90 seconds is I just have to reiterate, you know, that Natasha has chosen to do very amazing things for others because she realized that it would help her to heal. You know, so that's really amazing. Is there anything that you would like to say to folks, Natasha?
Rebuke fear. Let go of the fear. Let go of fear. And to just stay true to yourself. We don't have any point to prove to anyone besides ourselves. And remember that success is to gain something you're aiming for. So reach for the stars and stay productive in it, and you'll be successful at whatever it is you're trying to do.